Hello and welcome, my name is NOVARIS, and today I'd like to speak to you about the Magicka Templar build for the Murkmire DLC. There's a few noticeable changes from the last patch. The first is that we're using more gear setups, so we can use the Spell Strategist, Burning Spellweave, Scathing Mage or Mother's Sorrow. They're probably the best options. There will be others obviously. The other thing as well is that the skills have changed, so some of the skills have a shortened cast time, others have an increased cost, but I'll go over that later. In this video I'll go over the DPS Parses, gear setup, skill points, champion points, and then I'll finish it off with the rotation.
Told myself to push and never stop. I've been stressed out, watching both these hands around the clock, with my eyes wide, trying to get the panorama shot. Whole world getting blurry to me, answers getting lost. So I watch my back and keep it moving to the front, and remember that the world's yours, do it how you want. You've been waiting here for too long, think it's time for you to move on. Realize that there's real lies in these real times to be strong.
I've been waiting all my life, and it was right before my eyes, watching all this time slip by. Now I realize, you know I've been waiting, 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 but will you wait for me?
Okay, so let's go over the gear setup. So at the moment I'm using the Spell Strategist Inferno Staff on the front bar with an infused trait and either a shock or flame enchantment. If you don't want to use this staff, another option would be Burning Spellweave if you want to get a bit more damage on more than one target. On the back bar I'm running the Maelstrom's Inferno Staff with an infused trait and either a shock or a flame damage enchantment. You want to have one of each on either basically. So you need to use that in conjunction with Blockade of Fire to get the full benefit. I also have two pieces of Zaans, so I have Infused on the larger pieces, Divines on the smaller pieces, and it's a 5-1-1 setup, so all the Siroria here is light armour and the shoulder and helm are medium and heavy. So on the jewellery I'm running 2 Bloodthirsty and 1 Arcane. I have spell damage enchantments on all of the jewellery and magic enchantments on all of the gear. Okay, so let's go over the skills. So on the front bar I'm running Blazing Spear, so it serves several purposes. So the first is that it does AoE damage, single target damage obviously, and it provides a synergy. Because it's an Adric Spear ability, we also get the benefit from the Piercing Spear, Spear Wall and Burning Light passives. So we get more critical damage as well from that Piercing Spear. The next thing as well that's worth mentioning is I'm using the Purifying Light skill as my next skill. Just here, and it's very useful. You only need to use it once per rotation, and the other benefit as well is that it copies the damage from beforehand, so it's 6 seconds worth of damage it copies. It's just here, and also because of the passives we're gaining more ultimate, and we're also gaining minor sorcery just because we're using this skill. The next skill is Elemental Weapon. Unfortunately the cost has increased, which does actually affect some of the classes more than Magicka Templar, but it still does a decent amount of damage, so it adds damage to your light attacks, and because it's a Psychic Order ability we also get the Spell Orb, the damage from the Spell Orb passive just here, so you reach 5 of the spell charges and then it does the damage. When you block you get a shield, and when you're casting a Psychic Order ability you get damage mitigation. The next skill is Radiant Oppression. a very strong skill, but you really only want to use this during the execute stages of a fight, so around 25% and below. Because it's a Dawn's Wrath ability, we'll also be generating that ultimate and giving people minor sorcery at the same time. The next skill is Inner Light. So it's very useful for giving us more maximum magicka. It gives us 5% from just having that skill slotted and 2% from the Magicka controller passive. The next skill is Fiery Rage. It serves several purposes, so it's actually the strongest ultimate and the ultimate that we would be using in a trial, but it also allows us to gain some of the benefits. So the Ancient Knowledge passive, we get 8% more damage on all of the skills on this bar that are single target attacks. So let's have a look at the back bar. On the back bar I'm running the Vampire's Bane, so the rotation's actually changed around to fit this a bit more because it has an unusual duration. But because of this skill we also benefit from the Dawn's Wrath passive, so again ultimate, minor sorcery. We also have Blockade of Fire as the next skill. It does more damage to enemies that are already burning. The next skill is Elemental Drain. In trials we really don't use Elemental Drain as a DPS, so we use Harness Magicka instead. Gives us a bit more sustain, and we also can get some damage mitigation. So there's Channeled Focus is the next skill. Gives us some resistance buffs, and it also, the main thing is it actually provides us with more resources over time. The next skill as well is Channeled Acceleration, so it's going to give us minor force for 36 seconds, increasing our critical damage by 10%. And then we finally have Crescent Sweep as the second ultimate, which gives us 10% more critical damage just having that slotted in this bar, as you can see from Piercing Spear. Okay, so I'll go over the champion points. So at the moment I'm running 66 points into Elfborn, 56 points into Elemental Expert, 25 points into Spell Erosion, 9 points into Staff Expert, 66 points into Master at Arms, and then finally 48 points into Thaumaturge. I'd also just like to mention that the champion points and the rotation have been influenced by another YouTuber, so I'll put down a link in the description so that you can check him out. The rotation was especially influenced by his video, so I hope you have a look. Okay, so we're finally on to the rotation section of the video. I'd encourage you to take a note or take a screenshot of this screen if you want to use this rotation and need an easy resource. The first thing I'd like to mention as well is that this rotation was heavily influenced by another YouTuber, so I'm going to put that in the description as I've said before. So at the moment the only problem that I've had with this rotation, and to be honest most of the rotations with the Templar, is for me when I'm bar swapping the Blazing Spear there's a slight error there, so it's not every time, but I think this next rotation the Blazing Spear doesn't go off as intended. Just there. It doesn't influence damage too much, and it's nothing to do with the timing, so if you're having the same problem as me, just persist and eventually you'll find a way to get around that. Overall the damage from Templar has increased substantially. Magicka Nightblade and Magicka Sorcerer haven't really seen the same jump as Templar. The main difference predominantly is the Radiant Oppression in my opinion. We're getting a lot more damage from that. But also the skill, the ultimate for the Templar on the back bar has actually changed morph, so it's a bit more damage from that than previously. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope to see you guys again soon, and thank you for all the support so far.